Thank you, Adele, and thank you. Amazing. I loved what you talked about mentorship, and we actually have a mentor panel coming up at 11 where we'll get to explore this a little more. But fantastic. And I loved the Lego comment. I'm in the middle of building a millennial falcon right now, and so I can totally understand about, you get down on the floor and you get to work with your kids on it. It's so much fun. Couple of housekeeping notes here. Please check out the KW Community Foundation Fund for gender equity and donate if you can. And please don't forget to sign into this platform and fill out your profile, especially your basic information and your volunteer experience, and set your profile to public so that we can show your individual contributions along with the visualization of participants today. It's really cool. It looks like a family tree, but it'll be a family tree of amazing, incredible women in our community. I can't wait to see this. So please go in and fill that out. Also, just wanted to remind everybody there's an amazing conversation happening on the dashboard. So, comments that happened during the panel that you'd like other people to resonate with, please put them on the discussion board as well. Tweet it out. We're using the hashtag #ChooseToChallenge. Please take your photograph, choose to challenge, make the pledge, hashtag IWD 2021. Throw in a hashtag Waterloo Region too so that we can find you. And just to let you know, we are on Twitter. The WCT_WR is our Twitter, and we'd love to retweet you out and get that kind of conversation going. All right, it is 10 o'clock and it is time for our second panel today, and it's about the impact of youth in the community conversation. So please welcome Jacqueline Houston, the Vice President and Market Leader of BMO and Private Wealth Waterloo. Hi, Jacqueline, how are you doing today?
Oh, good morning. Thank you, Melissa. How are you?
I'm so good. I want to tell everybody a little bit more about you. I haven't had the opportunity to meet you, so I was really excited to read your bio. Amazing. So you've spent 30 years inspiring and developing individuals to achieve business success while working in the banking and wealth management business. Jacqueline believes in the power of financial education and the power of wealth planning, and is a Jacqueline to work with colleagues, clients, and friends to help them collectively reach their potential. What a calling. Jacqueline recognizes that women often approach financial wellness based on their family's needs and goals. So she promotes the education of financial well-being for women, as when women are educated and empowered financially, they drive the economy. We're going to learn more about that in our tech panel of founders coming up at 1 o'clock. Just a quick plug. She's also a board member of one of my favorite organizations locally, which is the Museum. And Jacqueline also grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo and lives with her family in Breslau, so near the airport. She loves the outdoors, which is gorgeous out there, especially like +5 today. What are we at? -1 right now. Sorry, the temperature hasn't gone above 0 yet. Loves the outdoors and finds peace in the beauty of nature. Have you heard this new term, having a forest bath? You walk in the forest, yes, walking in the forest and you get bathed in it. I don't know, it's a COVID thing. But anyway, Jacqueline, the floor is yours. I can't wait to meet these amazing young women you're going to be speaking to.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Now I want to go have a forest bath. It sounds incredible. Anyway, good morning to our panel and all of our participants watching this panel. It is my pleasure to introduce the following amazing women for our conversation of the impact of youth in our community. Each of the women I'm about to introduce you to has made a difference in many people's lives, and they definitely choose to challenge every day. Their bios are on the schedule. However, I'm going to read them because they're incredible. And I really want you to know a little bit about each of these incredible women before we start into our discussion. So first off with us today is the Honorable Bardish Chagar. And the Honorable Bardish Chagar was elected in 2015 as a member of Parliament for Waterloo. Minister Chagar is devoted to inclusion and community building. She's passionate about community involvement. Minister Chagar has lent her support to many different causes and organizations as she has worked to foster diversity within the community and provide opportunities for social and economic engagement. Minister Chagar considers herself part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms generation, and has participated in policy conferences on many issues, including the advancement of same-sex marriage rights and a national manufacturing strategy. She graduated from the University of Waterloo with a Bachelor of Science. In 2012, the Waterloo Region recognized Minister Chagar as one of 40 under 40 who would lead the region of Waterloo into the future. And she has more than done that for us. Thank you and welcome. Hima Sheth. Hema is a first-year graduate computer science student at the University of Waterloo and a SHAD program alumni. During high school, she spent time working on the Smart Cities Waterloo team and continues to work with the children in youth planning table whenever possible. She also spent 2 years working on SBP Teens, a youth philanthropy group focusing on helping charities in the Waterloo region. Currently, she is pursuing her interest in social good as a project developer on U of W Blueprint, an organization that develops software for local charities at no cost. Again, at no cost. She aspires to start her own NPO in the future, focusing on education and/or international aid. I can't wait to follow you on that one, Hema, and see what you do start. And welcome. We also have Marissa Vedoretti with us today. Marissa has always had a passion for sustainability and found a way to create an outlet for this through shampoo. Marissa is a co-founder of EarthSuds, a social enterprise that aims to reduce plastic bottles and cosmetics by selling zero-waste tablets of shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. And check it out, they're all in these little boxes. EarthSuds has been able to partake in the AC Jumpstart and Next Founders program, while also being named the 2020 Enactus Canada National Champion and top 10 in National Geographic's Global Ocean Plastic Innovation Challenge. Marissa is a recent Wilfrid Laurier University alum where she completed her undergraduate degree in business administration and a concentration in accounting. Welcome, Marissa. And Madison Fisher. Madison is foremost an athlete, right down to the bone. As a 19-year-old member of the Canadian senior sport climbing team, has traveled to numerous countries representing Canada, once as a youth athlete and now an open competitor. She is extremely dedicated to her sport to the point of obsession, revolving her life around training and competing. Madison has recently set the goal of making the 2024 Olympics. Outside of training, Madison is no less busy. In September 2020, Madison founded a healthy popcorn business, Podium, supplying a healthy snack alternative for athletes like herself and diet-conscious people alike. And yes, you can actually find this at stores locally. In addition, Madison is an open spokesperson in the field of social media, being social media free since 2018. Madison writes about social media and other mental health sports psychology topics on her blog, madisonfisher.com, as well as a number of other blogs and publications. So welcome, Madison. Welcome to our wonderful panel this morning. There is so much interesting information here, and I can't wait for you to share your stories with us as we move forward. So let's talk about how you started your journey. Each of you have a different journey and they're each inspiring in their own way. So I'm going to ask Marissa to start and share with us about your journey.
Sure. Well, I always say when this started, this all kind of happened by accident. It was pretty much a happy accident. And the idea basically came through this online competition that I was doing. It was really just for fun. And then I was just really encouraged by a lot of the professors at Laurier for me to keep on doing it and keep on building it. So that's kind of how everything came about and was able to be built into a business. I was lucky enough to have the support of faculty, and also there's Enactus, which is an association that fosters social entrepreneurship, that really helped to build up the business while I was at university. So it all just kind of grew slowly. And I'd say the actual idea for EarthSuds, it's always come from the fact that I've always been really, really interested in the environment and also cosmetics. So when I found this competition that was basically trying to figure out how to get products to people without producing plastic packaging, and it was focused around shampoo, that was kind of the perfect thing for me. I was really passionate about working on it.
Oh, wonderful. And you know, it's amazing how you've grown it into such a big product and that people can actually get it. I went on the website and I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. So I encourage everyone to check it out. Where do you see EarthSuds going? Like, where do you want to build it to?
Yeah, we're constantly expanding in terms of the retail marketplace. We were originally marketing it towards hotels, but once COVID happened, that completely shifted, and we've really been going straight into the retail landscape now. So we're really hoping to get into some really big retailers pretty soon. I don't know if I can say their names, but yeah, we are trying to grow it in the retail landscape as big as possible, and eventually going overseas. We're in the US right now, but making it worldwide would be the best.
Wow, congratulations. That's incredible. Thank you. Minister Chaker, tell us about your journey and where that started.
I got involved in politics when I was 13 years old. I never thought that I would be running for office, and I've not really seen many people, especially in the Waterloo region, that look like me in these roles. So I just love politics, and I want to make sure that we can be a voice for people who sometimes feel voiceless. And I think that's why today on International Women's Day, it's tremendous to be on this panel with such strong, fabulous women. And so basically went out pounding signs with my dad, and then wanted to fight for things like same-sex marriage. And my family, who immigrated from India, doesn't always have the same social values that I might have. They've come a long way. So just knew that people around me didn't always want to speak up. So wanted to make a difference. And then it was kind of a fluke. Andrew Talagdi was my boss after I graduated university. He was the member of parliament, took me under his wing, kind of, was like a mentor, got me to do things that I never thought I would do, including speaking on his behalf at events. And then an opportunity came to put my name on a ballot as the candidate for the Liberal Party in 2014 was the nomination. And there's people around me who had a lot more confidence in me than I had in myself. And so if I leave any message to anyone watching today, believe in yourself. You are fabulous and perfect the way you are, and you can do anything you want to do. And so that was kind of what led me to running for office, getting elected, because the people in Waterloo are amazing. And the Prime Minister asked me to join the cabinet table. So all of it just feels kind of surreal sometimes. So while I'm here, I'm going to use my privilege to make the changes that we need to make to ensure that we're building back even better and consciously inclusive.
Thank you. And we so admire you in our community and just the contributions that you've made in KW and your focus on the youth and the charges that you have under you. So thank you. Now, you said you started when you were 13. You talked about pounding signs with your dad. Was that when you started when you were 13, or was there something else at 13?
So around 13, well, once again, like you come to Canada, so unless you're Indigenous, so I should acknowledge I'm in Waterloo, Ontario, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe neutral people. And you come to Canada for better. And so some of the things I was fighting for were contentious within the household. So my father said, maybe not the best time to discuss politics at the dinner table. So I'm going to find you an outlet. And that outlet was the campaign that was on in 1993. And that's why I went out, putting out signs, lawn signs in a campaign, and then just getting involved with some people who were like-minded, not necessarily on policy, but wanted to debate, wanted to lay a foundation. And that's kind of where we started fighting for things like the legalization of cannabis when other people were talking about decriminalization. When we talked about medical assistance in dying, we called it dying with dignity. Very not the coolest things to talk about, but important policies that I thought were important, that I thought needed to be advanced. And I wanted to have discussions about. So it wasn't that I had all the answers, but I wanted to know where other people were at. And I wanted to see if we could actually create and have respectful debate. And that's where my father found me this outlet. So politics is like my hockey. And then I was able to connect with people across the province and the country that allowed us to create some of these forums for change. And I think a lot of the change we brought in is a lot better, but right now I'm at this pivotal moment where we can do even more. So it's really exciting. I'm no longer 13, but I can tell you, it doesn't matter how old you are, participate. This is your time to have your voice heard. It matters. Your voice matters, and it doesn't have to be the same voice as everyone else. When Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says in Canada, diversity is our strength, he's not just talking about gender. He's not just talking about the shells we occupy. Diversity of experiences, of perspectives, of regions, of languages, and the list goes on. Whatever you have to contribute needs to be heard so that we have policies that benefit even more Canadians. So please never hesitate to reach out to your member of parliament or elected official's office. I know I want to hear from you, so never hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. And that is so in line with our Choose to Challenge theme this year. It just totally, and I can, even though today and this year is Choose to Challenge, I want that to continue always.
Every day, choose to challenge. That's
exactly. Right. Thank you. Madison, tell us about your journey and how you got started.
So with rock climbing, my stepdad kind of just brought me to the gym one day, and I've really been going ever since. I was always a bit of a more competitive kid. I did a couple track and field sports in school. but I never really got into anything outside of school. So when I started rock climbing and I started doing well and I started wanting to excel at it, I joined the competitive team, and I did well in competitions. And as soon as I started doing well at like national level and provincial level competitions, that was when I really decided to just go for it. And going for it meaning, you know, I would go to the gym every day. I wouldn't just hang out with friends. I would actually train and not just have fun at the gym, which was really tough when I was like 13 and I had lots of friends. All my friends were basically from the gym. So it was definitely something different to actually train for something seriously and want to excel beyond where my friends were looking to go. So that was one of the difficult parts of kind of committing right in the early days. But yeah, like it was pretty easy to get started. Like I just picked it and I just decided to go for it. And, you know, I've never looked back. It's been like the best thing I've ever decided to do in my life, because sports really like shapes your entire life, because everything is about being disciplined and committed and, you know, revolving your whole life around trying to do this one thing, because sports is all about like diet and sleep, and it just takes over everything you do. So it's really been great. And I can't believe that I stumbled upon it, and my dad, his friend just happened to invite him to the gym, and then my dad got into it and then I got into it. So it was really a stroke of luck that happened. But as for podium, like it kind of ties in with sports as well. Like I have a very healthy eating mindset, and I discovered something called nutritional yeast. And if you're vegan, you've probably heard of it. It's very, very popular. But I put on some popcorn one day because I was just experimenting with some healthy snacks, and it turned out to be really, really delicious. So I was at the grocery store that month that I discovered it, and I was looking to see what brands, you know, were giving out nutritional yeast popcorn, and I didn't see anything. Now, since then, there has been one other popcorn startup that uses nutritional yeast, but at the time there was absolutely nothing. So that's when I decided to go for my popcorn business. And I've been doing that since September of 2020. And yeah, it's been quite a different adventure, like compared to sports where it's just, you know, got to train, you know, you kind of know what to do when it comes to rock climbing training for sports. But with business, I don't really have a business background. I mean, luckily my parents are very entrepreneurial, so they've been helping me out with a lot of that. But it's been quite the learning process. I'd say everything I've done with Podium Popcorn to date, I would probably do differently. Like there's tons and tons of room to improve, and lots of lessons I've learned along the way, which was kind of the point. Like I wasn't really looking to make the next biggest like Orville kind of business out there. I was just kind of looking to gain a new experience and kind of learn something new that I've never really stepped foot in before. So yeah, like that's kind of where I'm at right now, just popcorn and training.
Popcorn and training. I love it. I love it. And I am definitely going to try that popcorn. You said it's at Fiddlehead, so I'm going to check it out and try it. Now, with your goal to get to the Olympics in 2024, have you had to change any of your training, or does that impact the time you can spend on your business?
Yeah, so I definitely had to train, or I had to train differently. With the Olympics in 2020, well, I guess it's 2021 that the Olympics are going to be happening, hopefully. In rock climbing, because this is their first year in the Olympics, they decided to do all three disciplines. That means speed climbing, lead climbing, which is when you use a rope, and then bouldering, which is when you basically just go about 15 feet up, and then if you fall into the mat. So it's a bit more powerful, whereas lead climbing, you need that endurance, and then speed climbing, you just need to be fast. So I didn't decide to go for the 2020 Olympics just because I wasn't a speed climber. I've never tried it before. And I also stopped doing lead climbing in 2017. And I just exclusively was working on bouldering, just because I'm a bit more of a powerful person. When I started training, I was all about pull-ups and just being the strongest woman out there in the field. So bouldering was really my strong suit. And when I stopped competing with lead, I really, doubled down on bouldering. But in 2024, they're going to change it to lead and bouldering combined, and then a separate category for speed. So because speed's now out of the picture, I'm planning on introducing lead back to my training regimen. So I've actually just started doing that probably a week ago. I've been training at the gym in Kitchener, Grand River Rocks, my normal facility is the core climbing gym in Cambridge, which is where I live. I live like 2 minutes away, so I can literally walk there in the mornings, which is great. But yeah, the lead training has been very, very different. I haven't done endurance for a long, long time, so I'm really excited to get back into that. I know it's going to be very difficult because one of the things I really liked about training for bouldering is that you don't have to get really tired and you don't have to, fight through this terrible pump, and you're not like, your muscles aren't burning all the time. But I am also excited to get back into that because it's been such a long time. And I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. So.
It sounds like you're going to enjoy it. Just before we move on to him, I have one question for you because honestly, like when I attend these panels and get to talk to different people, I learn so many things about people's journeys and their paths and interests. And so for the climbing, are there a lot of women in climbing, or is it pretty much a male-dominated sport at this point?
Yeah, so actually climbing is really great because it's quite equal between the genders. I'd say in the like top ranks, the absolute elite professionals, women are down about like 1 grade. So what that means is in bouldering, outdoors is kind of how we compare across countries. Outdoor bouldering, you have from V0 to V16. Women have done up to V15, which is just as like almost as hard as V16. And then when it comes to rope climbing outside, women have done, I think it's 14D or 15A, and men have done 15C. So we're not far behind, and in competitions too, like it's very, very, very similar. Women, it's a little bit easier, just because there's a couple less competitors in the women's field usually. But overall, I'd say it's very, very equal.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Hima, welcome. You've got all kinds of things that you're involved in right now. So tell us about your current journeys, and you just, even in high school, you started getting involved in the community. So tell us about your journey and what's gotten you to where you are, and you're so passionate about it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this is such a loaded question for me because I feel like I've been on like 4 different journeys in the past 3 years. So I really had to think about this question. I think my story is really similar to Marissa's, where it all just kind of happened, and I couldn't keep up with it because it was all so fast. So what happened was I made a switch from the medical field to the tech industry in about my grade 12 year, late grade 11, which is normally a really, really late time, especially to get into tech, because I know a lot of kids, especially at my school, start when they're younger, and they have that. A lot of these kids have influence from their parents who have like kind of put them in robotics, put them in these like coding camps to help them get better at tech, like introduce them to the industry. And I didn't have that. My parents immigrated here from India in 2000, so they were still pretty new. And I kind of had to find my way of the land on my own, and through experiences and through friendships. So I think the biggest part of my journey was the people I met on the way there, because I think I wouldn't have gotten into tech if it weren't for the people that I met, and the people who encouraged me to go into tech, because it was a really big leap for me to take. And I think that was super hard, and having that support from my friends and encouragement, especially going into an industry that a lot of people, like it's pretty hard for women to already break into the STEM industry. So breaking into tech, especially really late into my career, was super hard and super difficult. And oftentimes I felt like imposter syndrome. I was like, do I even belong in this industry? Like, is this for me? So yeah, I think that a big part of my journey was those relationships. And then coming back to my contributions in community, I think I met a few really good friends along the way who were very, very involved. I had a friend who was involved in a local youth philanthropy group called SVP Teens, which is like ran by SVP, Social Venture Partners. And I worked with SVP Teens for about 2 years, and I found my voice for passion in the community and my passion for youth in the community. And I realized the importance of having youth voice in all aspects of the community. And that led me to participate in other groups, such as Smart Cities, which was completely ran by a group of 12 youth, right? Like they had a complete youth section, which was extremely incredible and inspiring, because you don't see that, especially in those kind of sectors where it was more I guess you could say like in the city, like doing work with the city, and you don't see kids involved with that kind of work a lot. And seeing that group of people really inspired me to continue doing that. And I've tried to continue that journey into my university career and trying to speak up for youth as much as I can, you know, try and get other people involved. So yeah, that's kind of been I guess in a long-winded way, I've kind of answered that question. My journey has really been about fostering connections with other youth in my community and feeding off of their energy and trying to transfer that energy onto other kids in my community, because I really, really think it's important for kids to take that stand and kids to get involved, because like I've met some amazing people, and I know that if we build like a group, you know, like the power of all of us together is insane. It's so awesome. And I'm excited to see so many young women here and to see their impact. It's inspiring to me hearing all of their stories, and it just motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. So yeah, that's kind of what's driven me and kind of how I've taken the journey I've taken.
It's incredible, Hema. Thank you so much. And, you know, I'm hearing from everyone as you're talking, you know, the value of mentors in your life, whether it was a family member or friends, others in the community, people that you're at school with, and the confidence in yourself to move forward. And even, you know, Hema, you talk about it might not have been there, or it helped you find your voice. And, you know, there's so many resources and we don't always know where to connect into. So I thank you all, because you're all sharing those different resources today as you talk. And it's just incredible to me, and they are there. And especially as women, like to find that voice, and whatever experiences you bring, it impacts your voice. So to share that is incredible. Thank you. So I want to go on to our next question. You've all had incredible journeys and you continue on those journeys, but I'm sure there's been obstacles along the way. So I'd really like to hear, and I'm sure our viewers would like to hear, about one or two of your obstacles or your biggest obstacle and how you overcame it, or what you did to redirect that and manage through it. So Madison, do you want to kick that one off for us?
Yeah, this is perfect timing because I just thought of what to say. So I was like, I didn't want to hold on to it too long.
I put you first, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought of two obstacles. The first one I'd say was social media. When I started getting serious about rock climbing, mental training became one of my prime focuses, because I found it was something that not a lot of people focused on. A lot of people say they care about mental training and think that it's important, but not a lot of people actually put the time in to actually train it or really do anything about the fact that it's important. So for me with mental training, it was a lot of kind of just being really self-aware of what I'm thinking and why I'm doing things. So in competition, for example, I would always have really, really in-depth post-competition kind of debriefs, where I would really get into, you know, why I was feeling nervous, or, you know, how other competitors made me feel and stuff like that. But when it came to social media, I found it just kept stopping me. It kept putting me in a negative mindset. Like again, with competitions, whenever I would go on Instagram, for example, before a competition, I would always see my competitors. They'd be, you know, talking about their last minute training. They'd be posting videos of themselves doing like, you know, really heavy weighted pull-ups, or, you know, they're on their way to the airport or something like that. And it would always just instill a bit of doubt in my mind. And it would just kind of almost not ruin the competition, but it would impose a bit of anxiety to it. And when it comes to competitions, mental training, the kind of goal here for me is to have a very, very blank mind and just be focused on what I'm doing. And it's really, really hard to do that when you have so many distractions on social media that just kind of pull you in the wrong direction. So in 2017, I decided to start phasing out social media. I really liked social media. You know, I really liked putting pictures out there and sharing what I'm doing with everyone. But it was becoming a little bit tedious. As the time went on, I started posting just because I thought I had to, and kind of just sharing things, you know, a bit like it was a little bit of ego kind of in everything I was doing on social media. So I couldn't outright delete it because I really liked it, and I was probably a bit addicted to it. So I kind of just muted all of my people I was following. So whenever I tried to search and scroll through the feed, there would actually be nothing there. It would be completely blank. So the only way I would be able to see what other people were doing is if I actually went and searched them and looked at what they were doing on their profile. So that worked for a little while. But the fact that it was still there, the fact that I still had to keep posting, and it kept feeling like I was just trying to, show off and just, show everyone and what I was doing and how good I was training and stuff like that. So it took me quite a while, but after about a year of phasing it out and just trying to take myself away from it, I finally outright deleted it. And that came with my Facebook and all that other stuff as well. And since then, it's been really great. Like, it was exactly what I thought would happen. Like, I'm completely focused on training. I don't think about my competitors anymore. I'm not thinking about, my past and my accomplishments. I'm just thinking about, what's to come. So social media was a huge weight that got lifted off my shoulders. And then the other thing would just be injuries. Injuries really suck, and they happen all the time. For me, it's not usually like I sprain an ankle or I break a wrist or something like that. It's more like overuse injuries. So I'm pulling too fast, too hard, and I don't do enough prehab, and all of a sudden my elbow kind of hurts for like a year. So I've been dealing with some tendonitis for the past like 3 years. Super annoying. It's not stopping me from competing, but it's definitely stopping me from doing a couple exercises here and there. And it's just taking me down like 5%. And it feels like they just keep coming and they just never stop. And it's always something new. And now my knee hurts and my elbow hurts. So it's super annoying. It's something to deal with, and it's something you have to be really, really consistent about getting rid of. Otherwise they won't go away. So, I thought training would just be about, doing pull-ups and getting on the wall, but there's a lot more tedious things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see in, professional athletes. And that's all of the, prehab, physiotherapy, recovery techniques and stuff like that you have to do. And I'd say that's actually like the hardest part of being an athlete, just being diligent about the things that really suck sometimes. So.
Interesting. So with the injuries, what's the mind talk that goes along with that? Because you say you have them and sometimes they last for months, years. There's got to be something that you're saying to yourself to get you through that.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's some times where I feel really down about it, and I'm like, this is so annoying. Is this ever going to go away? Like, is this going to be a big problem when it comes to 2024? So that usually goes through my head as soon as it happens. Like, as soon as I start seeing a problem, I'm like, oh crap, this is going to hurt me. But it usually goes away within like a week or so. And I kind of start dealing with it. I realize I can still train. I can still do what I can without it. I find injuries are a great way, again, to get back to my mental training. Injuries are always kind of a way to focus on something you haven't focused on before. But with injuries that just don't go away, you kind of just have to, again, like, shut them out, try, like, keep staying diligent. Like, it will eventually work. You can try a whole bunch of different things and you can keep working at it. But you just can't submit to them. You can't just say, all right, I'm just gonna like take my hands off the wheel. These injuries are just gonna be here. I just gotta deal with it. You have to keep saying to yourself, like, they will go away. I'm gonna get over these things. And, sometimes it'll take years, which for me, my golfer's elbow, which is what I've been dealing with for the past 3 years, is finally going away. I've seen a new physio in the past month, and we've tried something new and it's finally working. So I'm beyond psyched about that. But it did take me 3 years to find her. So it's important to just stick with it, because it will eventually turn up.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that part of yourself with us. And I might say you might have another career. I know you already do some speaking, but I think about that influence of social media on our youth today. And I have a 13-year-old, and I think about the influences, and I go, wow, like, there's so much to be said for being able to turn it off. So thank you, and I can encourage you to continue to share that message, because
Thank you.
Like I said, it's so important. Thank you, Marissa. What would you say has been your biggest obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I'd probably say for SEDS, the biggest obstacle overall was developing our product. It's funny, Madison, you were saying you started this business, but you didn't have a business background. I had the business background, but with developing a shampoo, I didn't have the cosmetic chemistry or even like any kind of science background going into this. So it was really quite a tricky thing to figure out. Even on our team, like, we didn't really have anyone. We might have had some people who were in science, but no one like specifically was in cosmetic chemistry. And it was a really, really niche thing that we didn't know anything about. So to basically develop the product, I had to reverse engineer like all these other shampoos I would found. Like how it started was I would literally go and like search up liquid shampoos and like read all their ingredients and just like read the ingredients of all these different shampoo bottles and start to recognize like what kinds of ingredients were like reoccurring, and then like Googling them, like trying to figure out what they were, and then eventually like trying to grasp this sense of like, okay, like these are the types of ingredients that like normally make up a shampoo, and then trying to figure out like what ingredients can go that are like more liquids, and like how do we actually make this into like a solid tablet, because like at the time there are becoming more substitutes for liquid product, but at the time like there was really nothing in terms of like a solid dissolvable tablet. There was shampoo bars, there was liquid shampoo, but like not really anything else, so I couldn't compare it and just like try to copy somebody else's formula. I really had to make it from scratch. So that was a really, really long process. Still, the product's pretty much all internally developed, despite the fact like we still have no cosmetic chemists on our team. So it was really just a lot of researching and learning to be able to figure out how to do that. It took over 2 years to be able to get a product that we could even sell in the first place, and we're still developing stuff as we're getting feedback about our product. We're like constantly making tweaks and incorporating that into our research and development, but that was definitely the trickiest thing. It was just constantly like, how are we even going to do this? Like this seems completely impossible, because just the properties of the product, the fact that it's water resistant, but as soon as you crush it, it basically dissolves in a couple seconds. So to be able to create that was definitely a really tough journey.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's incredible, because as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, yeah, like how do you get this liquid into a solid? And then, you know, shampoo, we've grown up with, it's a liquid and you put it in your hands and rub it in. And you know, and as I was looking, as I said, I saw the box online and I saw these little tablets, and I started thinking like, I wonder how many I'd need to wash my hair, or how does the conditioner work? And it probably works the same way. It's just a different way that we use it. And for the zero waste, like it's just incredible. And the boxes then, are they boxed in like is it cardboard, or what is the materials you use for?
Yeah, it's a recyclable paperboard. That's what the main product comes in. And we also sell a reusable aluminum tin, so you can buy it in the bulk paper boxes and use the tin to bring it to your shower or bring it traveling with you or wherever.
Okay. Great. And did you in your education and schooling, did you learn about where you would get these supplies from, or was that part of your learning as well as you went along?
For the packaging, or more so like the product ingredient?
For both, yeah.
For the packaging, I worked with a lot of experts in the sustainability field, like trying to figure out like what is actually sustainable in terms of a packaging source. So at the root of it, I figured out it was basically just either paper products, something that can actually be recycled as minimalistic as possible. And then in terms of the actual ingredients, yeah, that was just coming through research. I had a couple cosmetic chemist advisors who I was able to just shoot off questions to every once in a while if I was really struggling on something, but yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know what? It'd be incredible one day if people continue to challenge this and we see your product instead of bottles on the shelf. So thank you. Hema, what about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think that I've had, I guess, 2 main obstacles that I've kind of had to overcome throughout my time in my journey. One of the biggest obstacles, I think, was really pivoting my career in late grade 12, late grade 11. And the challenges that came with that is like, it's really hard not to compare yourself to the people around you. And the people around me were so incredible and so amazing. And as I said, a lot of these kids had been doing tech a lot longer than I had been doing it. And I really just had to kind of push those voices out and focus on myself and believe in myself, which is a lot harder than it sounds, especially when you're doing something that you haven't necessarily done before. And I think that I really had to learn to rely on my support group, which is like, I'm a very independent person when it comes to dealing with my emotions. And I think that I really had to break out of that shell, and I had to learn to rely on other people, which was really uncomfortable territory for me because I always kept that stuff to myself. So I think that it's really important to realize when people are really there for you and to actually use those resources, because it is a big burden on your mental health to always put that on yourself. And I think that comparing yourself to other people, if it's in terms of motivation, great, but to bring yourself down, that's never the answer. And I think that I really had to change the way I took my comparisons with other people and take them from bringing myself down into more motivation. And I think that's really what's driven me to get where I am today. In my head, it was constantly like, I'm working, I need to catch up. I've missed so many years. And I worked, and even like when COVID happened and we were put into quarantine, I was given the gift of time to catch up to all these people. So I really took that and I ran with it, and I used that time to work as hard as I can, learn as much as I could, and that really like benefited me throughout my journey. And I think I got really lucky that I kind of just was able to pick it up. It is a really hard field to break into, and I had the right people to support me along the way, which was really how I overcame that obstacle. And I think the other thing that really challenged me was being able to balance basically my passions outside of school with school. It was a constant battle in my head, like, oh, like, do I work an extra hour on this, or do I go to this community event? And it's really about finding what works for you. And I'm not in all endorsing don't spend that much time on school. School is very important, and that has gotten me where I am today. I would be nowhere without school. And I just you have to find the balance that works for you. And I guess really tying in what I was learning in the community with my schoolwork and making those connections between like, you know, like more philanthropy like events, but also connecting those to my like biology, chemistry, and physics classes. Like I saw myself making connections in places that, you know, you normally wouldn't see connections exist. And I think that that's really powerful. And that's something that I've really enjoyed throughout my journey. And it's really about finding that balance for you and making sure that you're happy with what you're doing. And at the end of the day, if something doesn't go well, like if something doesn't go well in school, or if I miss a community event, there's nothing to regret, because it's a trade-off, right? Like every decision you make, there is an opportunity cost. And I had to live with that. And you just have to learn to find that balance and live with the decisions you make, because at the end of the day, like there really are no regrets. And you should, like, I was happy where I was, and I'm really lucky to be happy with what I did. So, and it's just being happy with who you are as a person, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's hard for a lot of people, and like, you should be so proud. Like I listened to you speak, and it's just, you talk about being lucky, and I'm like going, you're not lucky. You're making this happen for yourself, and
Thank you.
And you're making it happen for others. And you found a way, like you said, to connect your passions with your education and your learning into the community. So celebrate that, Hema. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Jager, what about yourself?
I just want to say, I wish when I was growing up that I was hanging out with Hema and Madison and Marissa.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I really want to give a shout out to the Women in Communication and Technology Waterloo Region chapter. I want to give a huge shout out to a dear friend, Adele Newton, for actually allowing me to have this opportunity. So to anyone listening, I hope you are using the platform that you have to share some of your comments. I would say my biggest obstacle has been me. Like just the stereotype. So like Jacqueline, when you talked about, you know, shampoo's a liquid, like, what do you mean it's a solid? And that's where like, it's just hard to like not think outside the box, because we've kind of sometimes put into these boxes. So part of my mission in life is to get rid of the box. So whenever I think someone's trying to put me back into that box, I'm like, no. Us women, we don't belong there. We can do anything we put our minds to. So I would say myself and stereotypes. I really loved when Madison said, get back to her mental training. I want to do more of that. I think, you know, each of us is at the center of our universe. And if we can take care of ourselves, mind, body, and soul, then we can get there. If we figure out what our vices are, if we figure out kind of what our triggers are, then we can always make sure that we stay where we need to be. And that might be like, you know, if you're really high on life, just to have to tone it down and remember you have to conserve some energy. And if you're in a really bad spot, who do you reach out to? And I think that's why, you know, just hearing even Marissa talk about like that table of advisors, that's kind of like my friends. All of my friends in my world, we don't have the same political affiliations. We don't think exactly the same way. And there's certain people that you reach out to at certain times. But then I've got this best friend. So I'm going to give a shout out to Winnie on International Women's Day, who's been a huge mentor, an ally, and just strength in my life. And I don't know how she knows, but I can have the best day of my life. Something like maybe I get a dog because I just got a Morkie in addition in my life, or got asked to join the cabinet table, or it might be just the worst day of my life where, you know, my grandpa passes away. My best friend always knows. And she always happens to text or call me at that time. And I think sometimes we really need to look at who we surround ourselves with. And I think it's really a fascinating kind of world, but I would say I'm my biggest obstacle. And the more that I actually take advice from, you know, the current generation and the one that comes after it, the more I realize that I can actually do anything I put my mind to. And I have to actually also be confident in myself. And if people are pushing me or making comments that I'm not comfortable with, it's okay to speak up, and it's important to speak up. And I think that's where we've actually seen our society shift, but it also shows that we have a lot more work to do, because oftentimes there seems to be repercussions when you speak up, but there shouldn't be. And that's not actually on us, that's on the systems that exist. And I think that's why when we know that there are systemic issues in our country, they're based on many different things, including race, including gender, including so many different things. So that we just need to make sure that we speak up, so that the people who come up after us are able to succeed even more. And I have to give a shout out to the panelists that I get to the privilege of being along with. It just seems like, you know, my belief's always been about leaving the ladder down so that people who come after us have it a little bit easier, because there will never be a shortage of challenges. And that seems to be exactly what these impressive women are doing. So I think it's so fabulous that everyone here is very comfortable with being uncomfortable and having the discussions that we need to make change happen. And we challenge. I love it.
Thank you, Minister Chager. And I love that you remind us about recognizing the systems that do exist, and how do you work within them and without and outside of them, because we've got to push that. And so glad that you brought that up, because I think sometimes we forget that there are those systems, and we want to forget about them, but we need to acknowledge that they're there in the background. Great. So, you know what? I'm going to skip one of my questions right now, because I want to know really what advice did others give you along the way? And then what advice would you have for others today? I mean, and you've talked about some of those people and those mentors in your lives, but if there's one thing that's stuck with you and one thing that you want to pass along, they may or may not be the same, we'd love to hear it. So Marissa, I'll start with you, please.
Sure. Yeah, I'd say that in terms of the advice that others were giving me, you know, doing this business throughout university, I ended up talking to a lot of people just constantly about where to go with things. And pretty much for like every single issue I was tackling, I would be consulting like 5 or 6 people, and it was always changing. So it was a lot of people that were helping. And I was lucky enough that all those people, it was more so not really specific advice for like guidance and direction, but just more so encouragement. And I'm really lucky that I had a lot of that encouragement to have people like pushing me to keep going and thinking about how big it could get and like where the possibilities could potentially happen, because I'm a pretty realistic person. So I don't tend to really be super optimistic or think like huge about things and what things could be. Although I have a lot of ambition for that, but there is a lot of people like pushing me to constantly go out and see that. And I'd say when you're on like a similar path as this, you end up having a lot of conflicting advice too. So I'd kind of say like you always want to make sure that you know where your goals are and the direction that you want to go, and kind of listen to the advice that's like in line with that direction where you're going. And I just say in general, advice for anyone else who's like looking to start a business, no matter like what age you are, and you're kind of considering like you don't know if like you really want to do something, or you don't know if it'll be worth it or like worth the time or the energy or whatever. I just say just do it, just start with it, start and work on it as much as you're able to, and keep going with it. I mean, like I feel like there's a lot of hesitation in starting businesses because you're like, oh, I don't know if this will end up making money. I don't know if this will be like some huge successful thing. I mean, like even if it's not, there's so many other benefits to entrepreneurship besides possibly turning into a full-time job, besides making it this huge successful thing. There's so many other benefits, the connections and the people that you meet, and the relationships that you develop, and so many other things. Like just the knowledge and like the learning that I've had through this has been absolutely like incredible. The fact that I've been able to learn things that I have at this age in terms of a career aspect from a business standpoint is completely like unbelievable to me that I've had that opportunity to do that. So whether or not like it's making myself money or not, that's completely separate from all the other benefits that come out of running a business and just being on that entrepreneurial journey.
Well, good for you. And it's like you said, it's consulting with others, but and taking that encouragement and running with it, which you have. And I love that you said you get that conflicting advice. I think we get that every day when we ask for help and advice, but that you are able to link it back to your goals. And it's about what are those goals and how you're going to get there and what's going to help you get there. So thank you for sharing that, Marissa. I really appreciate it. Minister Chegar, what about you?
I really liked what Marissa just had to say. I would say if I have any advice, I kind of wish that I received this advice, was just to be proud of who you are and to be yourself. My Canada is an inclusive Canada, and I think the work that I'm trying to do really is to help lay that foundation where each individual can be their true authentic self. I think oftentimes, you got that imposter syndrome and whatever else, but be proud of who you are and what you want to do. You define your own success. Oftentimes, we live vicariously, or we try to satisfy the people before us as to like what profession we should be or whatever else. Like politics for me was my hobby. It's something that I love. I'm not a morning person, but I can wake up any day because I get to do what I really enjoy doing. And I really do feel that I get to have those challenging conversations that I believe are so important as to the way we advance policies. So I would say, be yourself, be you, and try to bring people along with you. Because sometimes, that whole concept of like, why are people naysayers? It's usually because they've got a fear or they just don't know better and they need their horizons broadened, so that, when we're on these journeys that we are on, if we can actually let someone else kind of have a sample of them, they might want to also participate in these different forums, whether it's business, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever, sports. I would love to go rock climbing. And I'm going to figure out a way once COVID is done to be able to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Minister Chegar. And for our youth today, we always say, like, be proud of who you are, be your authentic self. Is there something, Minister Chegar, that you would say this is how you can get to being your authentic self, recognizing it's different for everyone? But it's easy for us to say that. But what is something that someone can do to find that?
I think, we've had a lot of conversations about allyship. And for me, allyship is not just a noun, it's a verb. So it's really people who look at the spaces they occupy and how we actually make safer and braver spaces. If I can give any advice, and this is why I think today's panel was so important, it's I think about our own mental health. And I want to get back to mental training. And I think that's where like getting to know ourselves and getting to know where we are at. Who can we have those conversations with and who can't we have those conversations with? Our entire country is not connected when it comes to broadband, when it comes to internet. So really looking at who's not being represented to ensure that they have those spaces as well. COVID-19 has been very challenging for the whole world, all Canadians, but disproportionately certain segments. And that's why the most underserved and underrepresented communities, we all have a responsibility to make sure that we're speaking up for them. And I think women have started to do that way better for women. And I think that's why it's awesome that we've got a day like International Women's Day, but we still have a lot of work to do. If we look at the decision-making table, we don't see gender parity everywhere. And if you even think about people who, express as non-binary, they don't identify necessarily as gender. So how do we create those spaces? So I would say, have the conversation, even if it's an anonymous email or a message, never hesitate to reach out. But as much as misery loves company, happiness loves company too. So rather than try to push someone else down to lift ourselves up, let's lift ourselves up and bring other people along with us, because then we'll truly create an inclusive Canada. But never hesitate to reach out for help. And I know sometimes it's very hard to ask for help, but just know that it's okay not to be okay, but it's also okay to ask for help. And there are people who love you and want to see you succeed. So not the black and white answer that you're probably looking for, but there's no one single answer. I would say there's many different ways. But if you're proud of yourself, that's what matters. Be proud.
Thank you. Really inspiring, because there are ways to find our true, authentic self and get to where we need to be to feel that we are the best that we can be and be proud of ourselves. So thank you, Minister Chager. Madison, may I ask you, in terms of advice that you received or advice that you would give to others?
Yeah, I mean, when you're a person who performs well in competition, a lot of people want to contribute to that and be a part of that. So over the years, I have received quite a bit of advice, some that I didn't really want, some that were helpful in the end. A lot about, what I do for training specifically. I find lots of people have lots of different opinions on how to, build muscle or train for a specific thing. And to be honest, you kind of have to listen to it, but at the same time, you have to filter it and kind of just keep going on what you're doing. Because the most important thing to do is to stick to something and keep going with it. Because if you keep switching around all the time, you're not going to get anywhere. So advice is something to, look for and, seek out, but it's also something to be cautious about, because a little bit too much advice can kind of derail what you're trying to do. But at the same time, it's the odds of actually making it as a sports person are pretty low. So in terms of advice that I've been given on that kind of area, or advice that I've given other people when it comes to, what are the odds I'm actually going to win national? What are the odds I'm actually going to become a professional rock climber? They're pretty low, but there's someone who's got to be able to do it, right? There's someone out there who is actually doing it. So, you can't just give up because, you think it's too low of a chance. Someone's actually doing it. So why not, try to make it you? So that's I think someone said that to me once, and I kind of took it and, made it into a big idea. I think I wrote a blog post about it at one point on my blog. And yeah, thinking about the odds is a little bit scary, but at the same time, it's kind of motivating, because again, lots of people get scared away by those odds and they think, it's not worth going for. But again, someone's doing it, so you might as well make it you, just give it a shot.
Thank you. I love that. I'm going to use that quote, why not make it you? You can brand stuff with that, Madison. I love it. Thank you. Hema, so tell us about advice you've been given and what you would give to others.
Yeah, for sure. Just to echo what has been said, I think that, this was said earlier on the panel, but someone said, don't let them put you back in the box. And it's really I really resonate with that, because it's everyone can tell you it's not possible. Everyone can tell you it's going to be tough, but it's about you to take that in stride and take on the challenge, right? It's all about choosing to challenge, which is why I love the theme for this year, because you really can't let that stop you. And the worst thing that could happen is you don't win that competition. You may not make as much money as you thought you would with your business, or someone says no to you. That's really the worst thing that could happen. And that's not the end of the world. You learn something along the way. And I think you miss every shot you don't take, so you really have to take every shot and give your 100%, so that even if it doesn't turn out the way you thought it was going to be, you leave that opportunity with no regrets. You've done everything that you can do. And at the end of the day, you know what happens, what happens. You can't change the course that it took, but you learned something and you gave it your all. And I think that's something that was told to me a lot. And it's something that I kind of I took with me, and I want people to take that with you. A lot of people will tell you, oh, because of your age, because of your experience, because of your gender, you can't do it. But I really don't think that's the case, because a lot of people told me oh, you can't break into tech in grade 12, or you can't balance this much extracurriculars with your school. It's just not possible. But I was no, it is possible. I just had to put in the extra work, and in the end, it was worth it. And I continue to tell that to the people around me who are oh, I don't know if I can do it. But it's really, you can do it. You maybe watch one less show of Netflix because you're going to a meeting or something like that. But you pick and choose your battles. And if you're really passionate about it, I'm sure you can find a way to fit that into your schedule. So yeah, that's definitely what I would want people to take away from this. And that's what I've taken away from my journey as well.
Thank you so much, Iman. It is, you choose to take that opportunity and choose to make things happen. We're actually at 10:58 already, and I feel like I could sit here longer and talk to all of you. You've got amazing journeys, and I did have more questions, but we're at that time. So I want to thank each of you, Marissa, Madison, Hema, and Minister Chager. It's been an honor. It really has been an honor talking to each of you, and you're engaging to talk to you. You've got these incredible journeys, and your life is like, I go, oh my gosh, your lives are just starting out, right? And there's so much passion there, and you have this remarkable strength and resilience to accomplish what you've already have. And I want to wish you all continued success, but ask that you continue to share your story, because really there's so much that people can learn and grow when they hear your story. So thank you all for your time today. And you all choose to challenge every day, and you are making a difference for yourselves, the people that you mentor, that you know that you mentor or don't even know that you mentor, and in the community. So thank you. I do have an ask for our viewers. Don't forget to check out the KWCF Fund for Gender Equality and donate if you can. Also, if you haven't already, do sign into this platform and fill out your profile, especially your basic information and your volunteer information and experience. And then we've got a visual that we're showing across where people are actually logging in. So again, thank you to our participants. I do hope to see you, and I look forward to following your stories. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And Marissa, I wanted to say, I use Earth Suds. I get them delivered every month to my door. And Hema, I'm an SVPer as well. Madison, I've tried rock climbing. I'll leave that to you. And Minister Chager, I've tried politics. I'll leave that to you, babe. But thank you all. That was amazing.
Thank you.
And like, for all of those of you who've been tuning in from the start, I hope you're inspired by these incredible scientists and the youth panelists on here. Like, power of positivity is so true. And one of the things I really love about this event is we're getting to know, some of our local leaders, like, of course, Minister Chager and WLU President Dr. Deborah McLatchie. But then we're also hearing from amazing people that I didn't know as much about, like Madison and Dr. Shahoni Ghost. And so this is such a great day, and thank you all of you. So please share on WCT_WR on Twitter. Let's keep this conversation going. You're all amazing, beautiful women. Happy International Women's Day. Now, we've been talking about the impact of mentoring, and our moderator who's going to dig into this a little bit deeper is Rebecca Schoenhart. Rebecca, there you are. Hey, Rebecca. Now, Rebecca is the Vice President, Commercial Financial Services for the Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge market. In this role, she leads a best-in-class commercial team to maximize RBC's position in the market and bring the best of RBC to businesses, business owners, and their employees. Now, prior to her current position, Rebecca was Director of Ultra High Net Worth Credit for Private Banking Canada, where she was responsible for leading our national ultra high net worth credit capability. She worked with private banking team members and key experts across RBC to support the delivery of lending advice and solutions to this valued client segment. Financial services, we're hearing a lot from women in financial services, which is incredible, because when I was a reporter and you interviewed somebody in financial services, it was always men. So I love to see over the last decade, seeing more women getting involved. But we're not talking about financial services today. We're talking about mentoring. Back to Rebecca. Since joining RBC, Rebecca's held roles with Private Client Credit US Wealth Management in New York, International Institution Sales Global Asset Management in Toronto, Strategy with Global Wealth Services in Toronto, and our Global Trust Businesses in the Caribbean, RBCs, I shouldn't say RBCs, and with Enterprise Strategic Client Group in Toronto and London. Rebecca holds an MBA. And she's also managed you're a horse person, or I guess I'm supposed to say equestrian. She had an equestrian business, so knows entrepreneurship, was listed in the Canadian equestrian team prior. So, like Madison's an Olympian, we got an Olympian thread happening in the morning. and currently a judge in the sport. Outside the office, she frequents the theater, opera, symphony, and is a recreational runner and cyclist. Rebecca, it is my pleasure to meet you and to turn this day over to you and your incredible panelists. Have a great time.